Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Divye Nashtaprayeshu Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Ter Bhavati Nashtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapters 33, we are starting today, the Rasa Dance, text number 1 onwards. Shri Shukavacha, Ittam Bhagavato Gopya, Shrutva Vacha Supeshala, Jahurvirhajam Tapam, Tad Angopachita Shishaha. Shukdev Goswami said, when the cowherd girls, gopis, heard the Supreme Personality of Godhead speak these most charming words, they forgot their distress caused by separation from him. Touching his transcendental limbs, they felt all their desires fulfilled. So yesterday we discussed how Krishna came, manifested himself, and he would disappear and came back. And gopis asked him questions, and Krishna, in the end, he said, I cannot repay your debt, even in the whole lifetime of Brahma, for what you have done, how much you have surrendered, and with your kind of love and devotion. Let your own glorious deeds be your compensation. So the gopis, they were flattered by his charming words, and they forgot all their distress. Tatrarabhat Govindo Rasa Kridam Anuvratah Stri Trair Anvitah Priter Anya Badbad Bahubhi. There on the Yamna's banks, Lord Govinda then began the pastime of the Rasa dance in the company of those jewels among women, the faithful gopis, who joyfully linked their arms together. Rasotsava Sampravrato Gopi Mandal Mandita Yogeshwarena Krishnena Tasam Madhya Dvayor Dvayo Pravishten Grahitanam Kanthe Swanikatam Striya Yam Manyerannas Anabhavas Pastavat Vimana Shat Sankulam Divokasam Sadaranam Otsukya Paharatatmanam. The festive Rasa dance commenced when the gopis arrayed in a circle. Lord Krishna expanded himself and entered between each pair of gopis. And as that master of mystic power placed his arms around their necks, each girl thought he was standing next to her alone. The demigods and the wise were overwhelmed with eagerness to witness the Rasa dance, and they soon crowded the sky with their hundreds of celestial airplanes. So this is Ras Leela. Krishna expanded himself to be between all the gopis. Each pair of gopis, he was there in the middle. So it's not like sometimes people try to imitate this Ras Leela, but they cannot expand themselves. And no demigods are going to come and crowd the sky with the celestial airplanes. Crowded the sky means all 33 million, they were there. 330 million, they were there. They didn't want to miss this beautiful sight of Rasa dance. Srila Bilumangal Thakur has written the following words about the Rasa dance. Lord Madhav was situated between each pair of gopis, and a gopi was situated between each pair of his manifestations. And Sri Krishna, the son of Devaki, also appeared in the middle of the circle, playing upon his flute and singing. So, in the circle they were there, and in the middle also, obviously in the middle, he was there with Srimati Radharani. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that the gopis, maddened by love, were unable to understand that Krishna had expanded himself so he could personally dance with each of them. Each gopi saw one manifestation of Krishna. The demigods and their wives could, however, could see all his different manifestations as they watched the Ras dance from their airplanes, and thus they were completely astonished because this is the topmost pastime of Krishna. Tato dundu bhayo nedur nipetu pushpa vrishtaya jagur gandharva pataya sastri kastadya yasho amalam. Kettle drums then resounded in the sky while flowers rained down, and the chief Gandharvas and the wives sang Lord Krishna's spotless glories. As stated here, Lord Krishna's glory in dancing the Ras dance is pure spiritual bliss. The demigods in heaven in charge of maintaining propriety in the universe ecstatically accepted the Ras dance as the ultimate religious affair, completely different from the perverted reflection of the romance we find in this mundane world. Valyanam nu Puranam Kinkaninam cha Yoshitam Sapriyanam Bhut Shabdas Tumlo Ras Mandale. A tumultuous sound arose from the armlets, ankle bells, and waist bells of the gopis as they sported with their beloved Krishna in the circle of the Ras dance. Tatra ati shushubhitabhir Bhagavan Devaki sutaha adde manina bhemana mahamarkato yatha. In the midst of the dancing gopis, Lord Krishna appeared most brilliant, like an exquisite sapphire in the midst of golden ornaments. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur states that Devaki, besides being the name of Vasudev's wife, is also a name of Mother Yashoda, as stated in Adi Purana. The wife of Nanda has two names, Yashoda and Devaki. So here Krishna is named Devaki Sutta or Devaki Putra. So Devaki Sutta, why he is saying that? So that everybody understands it is Krishna only who was there, nobody else. Because Devaki or Yashoda is also called Devaki, as we have studied earlier also. She had only one son, Krishna. Padanyaser bhuj vidhuti bhi sasmriter bhuvilaser ajyan madhyash chal kuch patah kundaler gandalolah sudyan mukhya kavar rasna granthaya Krishna vadho gayanti astam taditivata mek chakre virejuhu. As the gopis sing in praise of Krishna, their feet danced, their hands gestured, and their eyebrows moved with playful smiles. With their braids and belts tight, their waists bending, their faces perspiring, the garments on their breasts moving this way and that, and their earrings ringing on their cheeks, Lord Krishna's young consorts shone like streaks of lightning in a mass of clouds. Srila Swami explains that according to the analogy of lightning flashing in the clouds, the perspiration on the lovely faces of the gopis resembled drops of mist, and their singing resembled thunder. The word agranthaya may also be read agranthaya, meaning loosened. This would indicate that although the gopis began the dance with their hair and belts tightly drawn, these gradually slackened and loosened. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti points out that the gopis were expert at exhibiting mudras, precise hand gestures that express feelings or convey meanings associated with the theme of a performance, just like we see in Bharatanatyam or other dances. Thus, sometimes Krishna and the gopis would artistically move their interlocked arms together, and sometimes they would separate arms and exhibit mudras to act out the meaning of the songs they were singing. The word padan yasha indicates that the gopis artistically and gracefully placed the steps of their dancing feet in an enchanting way. And the words Sa smiter bhru vilaser indicate that the romantic movements of their eyebrows, smiling with love, were most charming to behold. उच्चर जगुर नृत्यमान रक्त कंठयो रति प्रिया कृष्णाभिर्मशम उदिता यद गीते नेदम आवृतम. Eager to enjoy conjugal love, their throats colored with various pigments, the gopis sang loudly and danced. They were overjoyed by Krishna's touch, and they sang songs that filled the entire universe. According to an authoritative book on music called Sangeeta Sar, there are as many musical ragas as a species of life. So 8,400,000 ragas are there. Among these ragas are 16,000 principal ones, which were manifested by the gopis. Thus, the gopis created 16,000 different rag or musical modes, and these have subsequently been disseminated throughout the world. The words Yad Gitenadam Avritam also indicate that even today, devotees throughout the world sing the praises of Krishna, following the example of the gopis. So they are the master of the rag. Actually, rag literally means musical mode also, but rag means to be attached to Krishna. Anurag, rag. So gopis are the master of this. So any song that we hear in the material world are based on the rag, but it's a perversion of the original rag. Because originally, every music, every dance, everything has to be done for the pleasure of Krishna. Then it is perfect. Then it is complete. Here we do it just like we read in Narad Muni's Katha. In his previous life, he was that Gandharva. Before he was that son of that lady. And when he was a Gandharva, so demigods invited him to sing Kirtan, he glorified the Lord. But he came and he started singing some mundane songs. And then the demigod said, you have such a beautiful voice and it should be used in the service of the Lord. But since you misused it, you have to fall down in the material world and take birth from a Shudrani. So then he did tapasya and he became Narad Muni. But this is what the whole purpose is. Any quality we have, and we all have qualities, whether it is singing or some other quality, whatever quality it is, it should be used for the service of Krishna. Whether we can speak, we can hear, whatever, it should be used in the service of Krishna. Then that's the perfection of that quality. Kachit samam mukundena swarajatir bhi amishvitaha uninya pujita tena priyata sadhu sadviti tadeva dhruvam uninya tasya manam cha bhavadat. One gopi, joining Lord Mukunda in his singing, sang pure melodious tones that rose harmoniously above his. Krishna was pleased and showed great appreciation for her performance, saying, excellent, excellent. Then another gopi repeated the same melody, but in a special metrical pattern, and Krishna praised her also. Kachidras parishranta parshvasthasya gadabhrita jagrah bahuna skandham thad valmaya malika. When one gopi grew tired from the rasa dance, she turned to Krishna, standing at her side, holding a baton, and grasped his shoulder with her arm. The dancing had loosened her bracelets and the flowers in her hair. The previous verse states that Shri Krishna honored the gopis for their dancing and singing, and in this verse, we see how the gopis responded by dealing intimately and confidently with him. Here, a tired gopi held on to Krishna's shoulder with her arm resting against him. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that the word Gada in this verse indicates a pattern suitable for a dancing master. Lord Krishna brought this item of paraphernalia to enhance his enjoyment of the rasa dance. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti states that the gopi mentioned here is Srimati Radharani, whereas the two gopis mentioned in the previous verse, those who were singing, in order, Vishakha and Lalita. Tatraikansa gatam bahum Krishnasyot palasorabham Chandana liptam agrahaya Rishta Roma Chuchumbha. Upon the shoulder of one gopi, Krishna placed his arm, whose natural blue lotus fragrance was mixed with that of the sandalwood pulp, anointing it. As the gopi relished that fragrance, her bodily hair stood on end in jubilation, and she kissed his arm. Kasya chinnate vikshipta kundal visham manditam gandam gande santatya prada tambul charvitam. Next to Krishna's cheek, one gopi put her own, beautified by the effulgence of her earrings, which glittered as she danced. Krishna then carefully gave her the betel nut he was chewing. Nrityati gayati kachit kujan nupura mekala parshvastya chut hastabjam shranta dhatstanayo shivam. Another gopi became fatigued as she danced and sang, the bells on her ankles and waist tinkling. So she placed upon her breast a comforting lotus hand of Lord Achyuta, who was standing by her side. Gopyo labdhava achyutam kantam shriya ekanta vallabh grihita kantayastav taddorabhyam gayanti astam ambijja nihre. Having attained as an intimate lover Lord Achyuta, the exclusive consort of the goddess of fortune, the gopis enjoyed great pleasure. They sang his glories as he held their necks with his arms. Karnota palala kavitanka kapola dharma vaktra shriyo bala valay nupar ghosha vadya gopya samam bhagavata nandratu swakesha swastam srajo brahmar gaya ras goshthyam. Enhancing the beauty of the gopis' faces were the lotus flowers behind their ears, the locks of hair decorating their cheeks and drops of perspiration. The reverberation of their armlets and ankle bells made a loud musical sound, and their chaplets scattered. Thus the gopis danced with the Supreme Lord in the arena of the rasa dance as swarms of bees sang in accompaniment. Evam parishvanga karabhimarsha snigdhekshanod dhama vilasa hasa reme ramesha vraja sundaribhya yathar bhaka swaprati bimba vibhrama. In this way, Lord Krishna, the original Lord Narayan, master of the goddess of fortune, took pleasure in the company of the young women of Braja by embracing them, caressing them, and glancing lovingly at them as he smiled his broad, playful smiles. It was just as if a child were playing with his own reflection. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments as follows on this verse. Lord Krishna alone is the supreme absolute truth, and his potencies are unlimited. All these potencies, taking personal forms, engage Lord Krishna in his pastimes. Just as the opulent manifestation of his one supreme transcendental potency manifests all the countless potencies of the Lord, so in the rasa dance, Krishna manifests himself as many times as there are various potencies represented by the gopis. Everything is Krishna, but by his desire, his spiritual energy, Yog Maya, manifests the gopis. When his internal potency, Yog Maya, thus produces such pastimes for the enhancement of his transcendental emotions. It's just like a young boy playing with his own reflection. But since these pastimes are created by his spiritual potency, they're eternal and self-manifesting. So everything is Krishna's energy. But these gopis, here it's mentioned that Yogamaya manifests the gopis by his desire. Also, it's said that all these gopis are actually expansions of Srimati Radharani. Because Radharani wants to give pleasure to Krishna in every way possible. And every gopi gives him pleasure in a certain different way that no other gopi can match. So Radharani, she just wants to give Krishna pleasure in every way possible. That she is the manifestation, or we can say personification of his pleasure-giving potency, Hladini Shakti. So she expands herself in all these gopis forms. And in fact, all the queens of Dwarka also are expansions of Srimati Radharani. Because the kind of pleasure Krishna gets from the queens of Dwarka, he doesn't get from the gopis of Vrindavan. The mood is different, completely different. So he is unlimited. His pleasure is also unlimited. And so is pleasure-giving potency. It's just mind-boggling. What is this? And we'll read more. What is this Ras Leela? Tadanga Sangha Pramuda Kulendriya Keshandukulam Kuchpattikam Va Nanja Prati Vyodumalam Rajastriyo Visrastal Mala Bharana Kurudvaha. Their senses overwhelmed by the joy of having his physical association. The gopis could not prevent their hair, their dresses, and the clothes covering their breasts from becoming disabled. The garlands and ornaments are scattered, O hero of the Kuru dynasty. Krishna Vikriditam Viksha Mumuhu Khecharistriyaha Kamardita Shashankascha Sagano Vismito Abhavat. The wives of the demigods, observing Krishna's playful activities from their airplanes, were entranced and became agitated with lust. Indeed, even the moon and his entourage, the stars, became astonished. Kritva tavantam atmanam yavatir gopiyoshita reme sa bhagwan stabhir atma ramo api lilaya. Expanding himself as many times as they were cowherd women to associate with. The Supreme Lord, though self-satisfied, playfully enjoyed their company. As Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti points out, it has already been explained that Lord Krishna is eternally free from all material desire, perfect on the platform of spiritual self-satisfaction. So but although he is self-satisfied, but he is reciprocating the love of gopis with them. Tasam rati viharena shrantanam vadanani sa pramrijat karuna premna shantamenang panina. Seeing that the gopis were fatigued from conjugal enjoyment, my dear king, merciful Krishna, lovingly wiped their faces with his comforting hand. Gopya Surat Purat Kundal Kuntal Ving Vedda Ganda Shriya Sudita Has Nirikshanena Manam Dadatte Rishabhasya Jagu Kritani Punyani Tat Kararuhu Sparsham Pramodaha Sparsha Pramodaha. The gopis honored their hero with smiling glances sweetened by the beauty of their cheeks and the effulgence of their curly locks and glittering golden earrings. Overjoyed from the touch of his fingernails, they chanted the glories of his all auspicious transcendental pastimes. Tabhiryuta shram pohitum sanga sanga drishtisraja sakuch kumkum ranjitaya gandharva palyabhir anudrut avishuddha shranto gajibhir bharadev bhinna setu. Lord Krishna's garland had been crushed during his conjugal dalliance with the gopis and colored vermilion by the kumkum powder on their breasts. To dispel the fatigue of the gopis, Krishna entered the water of the Yamuna, followed swiftly by bees who were singing like the best of the Gandharvas. He appeared like a lordly elephant entering the water to relax in the company of his consorts. Indeed, the Lord had transgressed all worldly and Vedic morality, just as a powerful elephant might break the dikes in a paddy field. So why does he do that? Why he transgressed all worldly and Vedic morality? Well, to prove to the world he is completely, supremely independent and above all these rules and laws that are for us to follow, not for him. He's above that. He's way beyond that. And he's supremely independent. He doesn't come under these laws. We do. So Ambhayasalam yuvti parishishya mana premnekshita prahasati bhir tatastato anga vaimanikas kusuma varshibhir hridyamano reme swayam swar tiratra gajendra leela. My dear king, in the water, Krishna found himself being splashed on all sides by the laughing gopis, who looked at him with love, as the demigods worshipped him by showering flowers from their airplanes. The self-satisfied Lord took pleasure in playing like the king of the elephants. So, when Krishna is doing this Ras Leela, or when he stole the clothes of the gopis, or other intimate pastimes with the gopis, when he does that, people start asking questions, start having doubts. But when he lifts Govardhan Hill for 7 days and 7 nights, when he dances on the hoods of Kalia, then nobody asks questions. He is showing his superpowers at that time also. When he kills Putna, he's only 6 days old and he kills such a big Rakshashi, Putna. That all time also he shows he's not an ordinary person and he doesn't come under laws of worldly, or laws of this world. But that somehow fits the arguments of the mundane scholars. But when he dances with the gopis and performs his Ras Leela with the gopis, and before that he tells them to go home, but they didn't go home. He gives them the message of morality. He himself disappears from the middle of the gopis, but they called him. And this is Krishna's promise. That's why his name Achyuta came 2 times in these shlokas. He is Achyuta, means he is infallible. Infallible from his position as Supreme Lord, infallible from his position of all the spiritual pastimes, and also infallible in the sense that he's there to reciprocate with his devotees. He's there to fulfill the desires of his devotees. So the mundane laws are for us to follow, for people like us, not for him. It's clear, completely clear from his pastimes. So anyway, we'll stop here and see anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, so you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yesterday we were listening to the Bhagavad Gita class, chapter 3, verse 20, 21, 22. We had a class yesterday, and in that, in those verses, and the Lord says in that I set the examples and for the material world so that they can follow it. And now this is something which is different from that verse. How the contradiction is there?
So contradiction is not there. We have to follow his instructions. We cannot imitate his doings, his acts. If you want to imitate Ras Leela, well, first imitate Govardhan here, lifting Govardhan and dancing on Kalia and swallowing forest fire. So we cannot imitate these pastimes.
Okay.
And also these pastimes he performs to show he is supremely beyond any worldly logic or law. He is supremely independent. And his example that we have to follow is his instructions in Bhagavad Gita. That's what we have to follow. Is it okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Mata, you have a question or comment? Okay, I guess we can stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna.